The 4 signs financially blessed in April. A sudden financial breakthrough never warns you. It just happens and changes the rules of the game. April opens up just such a scenario for 4 zodiac signs. Not gradual growth, but a sharp turn. New opportunities, strong decisions, and events that can take your financial situation to another level. I will analyze why these signs are included in this flow and how to recognize the moment when the chance is already at hand. If you want to see such patterns before others, subscribe to the channel. Let's start with the first sign. Capricorn. At the beginning of April, Capricorn feels a quiet revision of the rules in their life. Not external ones, their own, the ones they have been working by for the last few years. They look closely at the numbers, at the time spent, at the profits that came slower than they could have. And suddenly they notice a simple thing. Part of their efforts no longer gives proportional results. This is not disappointment. Rather, it is cold analysis. In the first days of the month, they begin to review their financial architecture. Old side jobs are closed. Some clients leave. But this decision is made consciously. Capricorns refuse work that takes energy, but does not increase capital. And this is where a new line of income begins to open up. Usually, this is related to a skill that he has long underestimated. For some, it is consulting. For others, it is process management. For others, it is the ability to structure complex projects. In mid-April, a specific offer appears, and it seems almost accidental. A colleague asks for help with budget optimization. A partner invites them to join a new contract. An old contact offers payment for strategic consulting. Capricorn is in no hurry to respond. They listen, they calculate, they compare, and only after that do they agree. But on their own terms. The amount that comes out of this deal often exceeds what was previously earned in several months of steady work. This is not sudden wealth. It is the result of precise positioning. Capricorn stops selling hours, he starts selling solutions. In the 3rd decade of April, another change appears. It is less noticeable, but strategically important. Then he begins to invest money differently. Less impulse, more system. Part of the income goes into long-term assets, investments, shares, and projects, or his own product, which can work without his daily participation. This creates a strange feeling of calm. It's as if the financial pressure that has long accompanied his decisions is suddenly easing. But the main thing is happening inside. Capricorn suddenly realizes that his strength is not in working harder than others. His strength lies in his ability to see structure where others see chaos. And when he begins to monetize this very skill, money changes his behavior. It doesn't come quickly, but it comes steadily. And with each new decision, its trajectory becomes a little wider. April is just opening this line. And an attentive observer already notices some financial doors that previously seemed closed are now beginning to open almost effortlessly. Gemini. Sometimes the financial shift for Gemini does not start with money. It starts with a conversation. An ordinary one, a short one, one that would be easy to miss. In the first days of April, it is precisely such a conversation that becomes the turning point. A colleague mentions a new project. An old acquaintance talks about a job opening that no one has officially announced yet. One of the partners casually shares a business problem, and Gemini, as is often the case, see the solution faster than others. This is their natural advantage: speed of thought, flexibility, the ability to connect people and ideas. But this time the difference is different. In April, Gemini begin to use these qualities not just for communication, but for direct financial gain. In practice, this looks very specific. And one of them takes on the role of a mediator in the project and receives a percentage of the deal. Another launches a small digital product or consulting format that quickly finds customers. Some suddenly realize that their knowledge in a narrow field can be monetized through online courses, micro-consulting, or paid subscriptions. The financial flow begins to form, not through one job, but through several parallel sources. This is the key moment of April. Gemini should pay close attention to 3 signals. The first is new contacts that appear by chance. During this period, there are almost no random people. The second is topics on which other people constantly ask for their advice. That is where a potential product or service is hidden. The third signal is information about rapidly changing markets. Gemini intuitively sense such changes before others. My analytical assessment is simple. The financial blessing for Gemini in April does not look like one big breakthrough. It looks like a network of small opportunities. And those who learn to make quick decisions can create additional income in a month that will last for years. In the middle of the month, there will be a moment of tension, there will be more work, and there will be a temptation to agree to everything. This is where you need to be careful. Not every opportunity is equally profitable. Gemini should ask themselves a simple question: will this activity scale? If the answer is no, it is better to direct your energy elsewhere. Another important financial focus in April is negotiations. It is during this period that Gemini are able to agree on terms that previously seemed unattainable. Higher pay, a share in the profits, flexible formats for cooperation. And here, my expert advice sounds almost paradoxical. Gemini should talk about money more calmly and more often, without embarrassment, without unnecessary explanations. Their intellectual value in April becomes obvious to others, and the market is ready to pay for it. At the end of the month, some representatives of this sign will notice an interesting detail. One of their small projects will start to bring in a steady income, small but regular, and it is this small stream that can gradually turn into something much bigger. April only shows the direction. But attentive Gemini already understand. Their financial strategy will no longer depend on a single source of income, and this change could affect the next few years. Cancer. Sometimes a financial turnaround for Cancer begins with the feeling that the old way of earning money is no longer sustainable. It's not a disaster, more like a quiet signal. In early April, representatives of this sign take a close look at their work and suddenly notice a detail they have long ignored. Their contribution to the business is much greater than the remuneration they receive. This discovery comes without emotion, just a fact. Cancer begins to behave differently. Less proving, more counting. They carefully review expenses, debts, subscriptions, and small financial leaks. And very quickly, they find several areas where money can be saved or redirected. This is the first level of change. But the real financial movement begins a little later. In mid-April, an opportunity related to trust arises. It could be a new responsibility at work, transfer of a client base, management of a small department, or an offer to take a position where you need to control resources and budget. Cancer hesitates at first, because he understands well, with new powers comes risk, but he agrees anyway, and this is where his main financial strength comes into play: strategic caution. Cancer does not take drastic steps. They carefully study cash flows, where profits are being lost, where the system is inefficient, and in just a few weeks they offer solutions that save the company or project significant amounts of money. In real life, this often leads to a pay raise, a bonus, and sometimes a share of the profits. The key points to pay attention to in April are very specific. The first is offers that come through old contacts. People from the past may unexpectedly return with financial opportunities. The second signal is access to information about budgets or resources. Where Cancer begins to manage the finances of others, his own income also grows. The third point is investment ideas from a close circle. It is among acquaintances that an offer may appear that looks modest but has potential. My expert opinion here is simple. In April, Cancers should not look for quick money. Their financial breakthrough is built on trust and control over processes. When Cancers are entrusted with resources, they almost always produce stable results. And it is for this quality that they begin to be paid more during this period. There is another nuance that is often overlooked. In the second half of the month, Cancers begin to view their own value differently. They are less willing to accept compromises that reduce their income. They take on less unpaid work for others, and this changes the financial dynamics. Money begins to come in more calmly, but noticeably more often. At the end of April, some representatives of this sign realize something interesting.
They are no longer afraid to talk about money. They don't make excuses. They don't explain. They just name their price. And from that moment on, Cancer's financial story begins to move in a completely different direction. There are still a few decisions ahead that can cement this change, and an attentive observer can already see that April has only opened the door that Cancer should have walked through long ago.
Scorpio. The first financial changes for Scorpio in April do not look like a gift from fate. On the contrary, it all starts when he suddenly realizes that some people around him are using his resources more than they are contributing. It could be a partnership that has long lost its balance, a job where their influence is greater than their salary, or a business model in which they are actually driving the process but do not control the profits. Scorpio remains silent for a long time. They observe, they gather facts, they calculate, and at the beginning of April they reach the point where their patience runs out. The decision is made quickly, the contract is revised, the terms of cooperation change, and sometimes he simply leaves the game that no longer brings him any benefits. From the outside it may seem drastic, but financially, it is absolutely the right move. After that, there is an interesting pause. It is as if the space becomes empty for a few days. But it is during this pause that a new financial trajectory begins to form. In mid-April, an offer appears that is directly related to his strength, the ability to work with crises, risks, or difficult decisions. This could be participation in the restructuring of a company, consulting on a complex deal, managing a problematic project, work where others do not want to take responsibility. And this is where Scorpio feels at home. When the situation is tense, they think more clearly than others. That is why the pay for such decisions in April may turn out to be much higher than expected. Money comes not because of the amount of work, but because of the level of trust in their decisions. The key points to pay attention to are quite clear. The first signal is conflicts over money or control. For Scorpio, this is not a problem, but an indicator of where financial power lies. The second point is offers that involve risk or difficult situations. Where others hesitate, he often finds profit. The third signal is the opportunity to gain access to a share in a business or project results. It is a share, not a fixed payment, that can become a real financial turning point during this period. My expert opinion here is quite categorical. In April, Scorpios should not agree to take on the role of an executor. Their strategic value is much higher. When they participate in decision-making, money comes much faster and in much larger amounts. There is another detail that is often underestimated. In the second half of the month, Scorpios begin to treat information differently. They listen to people more carefully. They notice details that others miss. And it is in these details that new financial opportunities may be hidden. Deals, investments, new partnerships. These are not high-profile events. Rather, they are quiet agreements. At the end of April, some representatives of this sign suddenly realize one important thing. Money begins to flow to them when they stop agreeing to play a secondary role. And this realization changes their behavior. They begin to act more aggressively, more precisely, more selectively. April only triggers this process. But an attentive analyst can already see that Scorpio's financial power begins to concentrate precisely where they control the rules of the game. And when that happens, their income rarely remains at the previous level.